Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. This is a much requested getting started video, and I have to say it's a little bit of a mystery to me why, but there seems to be plenty of people out there who want to start collecting, or at least are interested in the process of starting to collect a Dutch-Belgian army. Now this is of course for the 100 Days campaign. And the Dutch-Belgians did form a large part of the Allied coalition that would see the victory at Waterloo. And I think it's for that reason that a lot of people are quite interested in them as an army, because they're one of those things where if you want to do Waterloo, but you want to do something a little bit different, then they're a really good way of doing that. You know, the redcoats are all very cool, but if everyone at the club's got a redcoat army, but you're interested in 1815, then the Dutch-Belgians are a really good way of mixing it up a little bit. They're also, one of the things that I like about them as well, is that it's almost like collecting two different armies in one. You've got the Dutch troops and the Belgian troops. Now, uniforms are quite different. Now, you can just go for one. You can either go for Dutch troops or Belgian troops. But in this video, I'm going to try and mix the two as much as possible. Because I think, as I've just said, I think for me, that's one of the most interesting and fun parts of collecting this army, is that you do get these two very different looks. You've got the Belgians, and they look almost like British troops. Then you've got the Dutch, who look almost like French troops. Now, for those of you who have not watched any of the videos in this series, the way it works is we have two chunks of, in this case, £150, and I'll get into why it's that number shortly. And that's to represent either two paychecks, or what it was originally for was to represent birthday money and Christmas money. But, you know, it's two chunks of money, so you don't have to have that big hit all in one go. And the idea here is that in the first month we will collect the core of the army, and it could be that at the end of the first month you could actually play a game, and the second month we should have a fully rounded army with some of the extra bells and whistles. We might end month one without perhaps everything that we'd want, but by the end of month two, then that should all be made right. Now, as I said, the budget here is £150 per month. This is a change from all the other videos except for my French Imperial Guard one, because the budget has previously been £100. And the reason why it's 150 is twofold. One, we've had a period of price rises in the hobby. Not too bad in most circumstances, I find. But there have been some that have gone up surprising, maybe not that much 1 or 2 packs, but you start having 10 or 15 packs and suddenly it starts adding up. And the second reason is there are no plastic troops for the Dutch-Belgians. It's easy with the French because you've got plastic French coming out of your ear holes, so you can get plenty of them for quite cheap. But for the Dutch-Belgians, they don't seem to do that, although there is Warlord resin. We'll get to that slightly later on. So because there are no plastic troops, they are a little bit more expensive. I did look at converting British and French troops, but to be honest, it looked like it was going to be so much of a pain, and the troops were not going to look that accurate. So in the end, I just decided, you know what, I think you're just best off going for the models that are designed to be those troops. So, as I say, our budget is £150 per month. We're going to break that. We're going to have two chunks of that £150. The unit sizes that we're going to be looking at are for standard infantry is going to be 24 models. For standard cavalry, we're looking at 8 models. And artillery batteries, there's a little bit of flexibility there. You can either have 1 gun or 2 guns. I prefer 2 guns, but yeah, 1 gun is enough. We are going to have to get command as well, so things like brigade commanders, divisional commanders. But one thing that I won't be charging for in this are things like paints and glues, clippers, any of that kind of stuff, because these videos are more aimed at people who are either looking at starting a new army, or more specifically, they're aimed at people who are looking to get into Napoleonic wargaming from perhaps 40k or Age of Sigmar or Bolt Action or any of the other games that are out there. So it's not really necessarily for brand new wargamers, but more for people who are converting. That said, if you are a brand new wargamer, then welcome. And this is a perfectly good guide. You're just going to need to make sure that you factor in the cost of tools and paint and things like that in addition, and glue. I also won't be including postage and packaging, but on the flip side, I won't be including discounts that you get from online retailers. If there's a bundle or a deal that's available, I will be including that, but if it's, for argument's sake, you can buy a plastic set for, I don't know, £22 from the Perry's, or you can get it for £19.50 from the Outpost, I'll be going for the £22.50 price range. I'm not going to be including any online discounts. Now, I mentioned the Outpost Advisory. They are an affiliate of the channel, and if you see in the description down below, there should be an affiliate link. So if you do decide that you want any models, don't have to be Napoleonic. They can be 40k or Fantasy or Conquest: The Last Argument of Kings is a game I've started getting into recently. Then you can get them from there, and it doesn't cost you any more, but the channel gets a very small percentage back as a thank you from the Outpost for sending you their way. Where necessary, we will be including expenses for bases and for flags. Not basing material, but bases and flags. And of course, how can we forget to put aside some money for a Freddo at the end of the process as well. I've got to get those Freddos. So that is basically the rules. £150, units of 24, 8 and 1 gun. And that's basically it. So let's dive into it. Now, as I said in the introduction, there are no plastic sets for the Dutch Belgians. The closest we get is Warlord resin. Now, that's both a good thing and a bad thing. The bad thing, because it means that it's going to be more expensive. That's why we've had to go for £150. The good thing is that we're not tied to the companies that make those plastics. Unfortunately, as often the case, the Perrys are the perfect example of this. Unfortunately, if I say, let's start collecting Polish army, there are a number of manufacturers out there that do Poles, but they're not as cheap for the quality as Perrys do them in plastic. So we're kind of limited to the Perrys there. So without that restraint, we can go anywhere we want. And I'm going to go to a company that I've not talked about on the channel very much, but I do really like. They go to a lot of shows. They've got a very good show presence, and that is Eagle Miniatures. Now, we're going to hit them up for 2 packs of their Dutch militia. Now, you can go for the Belgians if you want to, but I think we're going to head elsewhere for them. So from Eagle Miniatures, I'm going to recommend we get 2 of their unit bundles of the Dutch militia. Now, these are not cheap. These are going to be £35 each. So straight off the bat, we've got 2 battalions of 24 infantrymen, and we've spent £70 already. Now, the Yorkshireman in me is dying a little bit inside at that thought. But, you know, it is what it is. So we are going to head on for a 3rd Infantry Battalion. Now, we're going to head over to Warlord Games for this, and we're going to pick up one of their Warlord resin, Belgian infantry. Now, they do 2 sets. They do marching and they do firing. I'm going to recommend that we go for the firing one, just because we've got 2 units marching already from the Eagle Miniatures. Now, I know that the Warlord resin is a controversial beast. I know some people have had very, very bad experiences with it. I haven't personally. For me, it's not great, but it is what it is. If you are super adamant that you don't want to use it, then I'd probably just go for a unit of Belgians from Eagle Miniatures. So it's going to be slightly more expensive. The Warlord ones are £28.50, whereas the Eagle ones are £30. So there's a difference of £6.50 there, which is not, I mean, it's not nothing. But if you're a never Warlord resiner, then fair enough. I can understand that, and I would just go for that 3rd unit. So having bought that 3rd unit from Warlord Games, they're actually £29.50, sorry. So we are now up to £99.50. So we've only got 3 infantry battalions for that. You can see that we're racking up the cost quite quickly on this army. Now, as well as being about a £5 cheaper, there are also some other advantages over getting a Warlord box as opposed to Eagle Miniatures. And that is they come with bases, and they come with a sheet of flags as well. Now, the flags, we're not going to worry too much about this month, but next month, they're going to become an issue, and it's nice to have them, even if we... it's nice to have them. It's going to save us money in the long run. Now, bases-wise, they are not the size that I use, so we will be hitting at war bases. We're also going to need bases for the Eagle Miniatures anyway, But we're not going to worry too much about the bases at the moment. We'll come to those at the end of the month. We're going to carry on looking at the fun stuff for now. So we've got we've got a core brigade of infantry in place. So we've got 3 units of infantry. That's not too shoddy, I don't think. And I think we can treat ourselves to a reward, and we can look at some horsey boys. Now, again, I looked at putting together some conversions here. I was looking at French chasseurs with carabinier heads and all sorts of this kind of crazy stuff. But once again, Occam's razor strikes. The easiest thing to do, the most simple thing to do, is to just get the models that are designed to represent these. So we're going to head over to Old Faithful, we're going to hit up the Perrys, and we're going to keep it simple. Now, I'm not specifically building a Dutch-Belgian formation here because they were so integrated in with the British. It might be interesting, it might be worth doing a video in future about an allied army for Waterloo. So that's a potential option. Let me know if you'd like to see that in the comments down below. But we're just going to stick with pure Dutch-Belgians today. So while I'm not looking at a specific formation, what I am going to do is I'm going to base the cavalry off of the Netherlands Light Cavalry Brigade under, this is a big one, big breath, General Major Baron Trip von Zoutland. There you go. So I'm sure that was been absolutely massacred. But we're going to go for this guy. And his formation that he had on the 18th of June. Now, the reason why I really liked him is he has the 1st and 3rd Dutch Carabineers with their bicorns, and the 2nd Belgian Carabineers in their Grecian helmets. There's a bit like the French Carabineers. So you've got a nice mix of the 2 different cavalry troop types there. Now, we've only got enough for one of these regiments this month because we still need to get some bases. So I'm going to recommend that you go for the 1st Dutch Carabineers. Now, they're the guys in the bicorns. We're going to get a 2nd unit of those next month. The reason I'm going to recommend them this month is because then you've got 1 unit of each to paint next month. You're not painting the same models over again. So you've got a bit of variation there. Now, that said, a lot of painters, and me realistically, I like to batch paint. So it would be quicker for me to paint 16 models the same than it would 16 models in 2 lots of 8. So you could go for the single Belgian Carabineers this month if you're a batch painter. Save the 2 units of Dutch for next month. But just for the sake of variation, I'm going to suggest that we go for 1 pack of DB28, that's Dutch Carabineer Command, and 2 packs of DB29, that's Dutch Carabineers Charging. And as I said earlier on, these are from the Perry Miniatures website. Now, these 3 packs are going to give us 9 models, and this is quite handy because it allows us to have our unit of 8. You get 2 officers in the command pack, so we can break one of those officers off, use him as the brigade commander, use him as General Major Baron Tripp. Now, he probably wouldn't have dressed like that, but we're trying to save money. We can use him for that. And there's no point in having an extra model lying around that we're not going to use. Now, with that, those 3 packs are £9.50 each, so that's another £28.50 that we've spent. So we are on £128. There you go. So we're most of the way through the first month. We've got 3 battalions of infantry, a regiment of cavalry rather, and now you know for me, I always like the 3-legged stool analogy. We need the 3rd leg of the stool to make a Napoleonic army, and that is the artillery. Now, there are a number of pieces you can go for. You can go for horse artillery or foot. I'm going to recommend that we stick with the Perrys and we go with DB20, Dutch-Belgian foot artillery laying 6-pounder. Now, you can go for DB21, which is firing, but I like the little vignette of them laying the gun, sighting it and getting it ready to fire. So I quite like that. But again, it doesn't really matter. It's whichever one tickles your taste buds, whichever one you like the look of the most. Artillery from the Perrys these days is £10, so that's another £10, which puts us on £139, leaving us with £11 left. Sorry, 138, leaving us £12. Sorry, £12 left. Now, I'm going to be a little bit naughty. I am going to go over our budget this month because I'm going to recommend, while we're over at the Perrys, we also pick up one of their what I think is one of the nicest sets they do actually, and that is DB3 Mounted Infantry Officers. It's a really nice set. It gives you a mix of Dutch and Belgian mounted officers. But what I'm going to recommend that we do with these is you can put 2 of them into a battalions, and then the third one, whichever one you think is the best one, you can have as the brigade commander. Now these are going to be £9.50. So that's going to leave us with £3.50, and we've still not got any bases. So we are going to head over to war bases. This is going to put us over our £150 limit, but you can leave the command off for now, and we can grab those next month if you want to stay under the £150, if that's an absolutely hard limit. And if it is, that's fair enough. I have very good faith that we're going to be hitting up the Perrys again next month, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. So we're going to go over to war bases. Now, one of the things I really like about war bases is that the prices for the packs of their bases are all basically the same. See what I did there? They're all they're all the same. It's just the number of bases you get in there that varies. Obviously, the larger the bases, the fewer you get of them. So that's fair enough. So they're £175 each, by and large. Now, obviously, some of the bases will be slightly different to that, but we're looking around about £1.75. Now, we're going to plumb for 40 mil squares to base our infantry on, so 6 of those is going to be enough for 1 battalion, and they come in 16 to a pack. So we're going to grab 2 packets of those. That's 32 40 mil bases. That's going to be enough for 5 infantry battalions. Spoiler alert, that's going to be enough. We're also going to grab 2 packs of 50 mil square bases for the cavalry, and a pack of 8 50mm round bases for the commanders. Now, if you wanted to, you could just use the cavalry bases, but we will be using all of those next month, so you would need to buy a separate pack anyway. Now, I like to have my commanders on round bases, and you can also put your artillery on the round base as well, or one of the cavalry square bases, just to just to get it on a base, really. Now, these 5 packs are going to cost us £8.75, so that is going to be an overspend on this month. It brings us to a total of £156.25 for this month. So we have overspent. As I say, if you're super desperate not to, drop the commanders, don't get them this month. We can always grab those next month. So the reason why I've suggested we do get them, though, is because it allows us to throw down and we can have a game. So what would we actually have to have a game with at the end of month 1? Well, we've got 3 battalions of infantry, we've got a regiment of cavalry, we've got a battery of artillery, we've got at least 1 brigade commander, we've got a brigade commander for the cavalry as well. We don't have an overall commander, although again you could use a second one of those mounted infantry officers to be the divisional commander for this game as well. You don't need to put them in with the units. You could have them on another base, and he could be the divisional commander. Not that they're necessarily that vital, but there they are. You've got the model. If you don't want to put him in the infantry unit, then you can use him. So with that, what I think is an excellent small core force out of the way, not out of the way, yeah? Makes it sound like we're trying to just get through it. With that small core in place, I should say, then we can move on to month 2. We can get some of the stuff that is perhaps a little bit more exciting and allows us to shape the army a little bit more. Now, I am not going to bury the lead on this one. I mentioned it in month 1. The first thing I'm going to look at is finishing out those horsey boys. So we're going to head back to the Perrys, and depending on the regiment that you bought in month 1, we're going to get the other 2 regiments. Now, as I said, if you're a batch painter, you might want to get both Dutch units. If you want to change it up, if you get bored painting the same troops all the time, then you might want to get the first Dutch last month, and now we'll be grabbing the Belgians, 1 unit of Belgians, 1 unit of Dutch. If you went for that one, then we're going to go for 1 DB28 and 2 DB29. That's for the Carabiniers, and the Dutch Carabiniers, and DB36 and 2 DB37s will give you the Belgian Carabiniers. So that's 2 regiments, and those 2 regiments of cavalry is going to be 6 packs of £9.50 each, which is £57. Now, with those 3 units now in place, we've got ourselves quite a beefy a beefy cavalry arm, so that's not too bad at all. It may sound like bull centaurs or chaos dwarves. We've got some beefy cavalry, but that's quite a lot of cavalry. We've got as many cavalry regiments as we do infantry. So what I'm going to recommend is that we bulk up the infantry aspect of the army. Now again, you've got choices here. You can either go with Dutch infantry or Belgian infantry. It's entirely up to you. You can go with Eagle, you can go with Warlord, you could even go with like the Perrys, they do metals, or front rank even. I'm going to keep it fairly simple. I'm going to suggest that we go one of each, that we go for a Dutch unit, again from Eagle Miniatures, and a Belgian unit, again from Warlord Games. If you don't like metal, or you don't like the resin, then just swap it for the other one as well. So you can go for 2 Belgian units from Warlord if you want, or 2 Dutch units from Eagle. I mean, whatever. It's up to you, really. This is just an idea of how you can go about these things. If you don't like the Dutch infantry, don't get the Dutch, get the Belgians. Similarly, if you don't like the Belgians, then just get the Dutch. If you don't like either of them, I probably wouldn't recommend a Dutch-Belgian army for you. So with 1 pack of each, the Eagle Miniatures being $35 and the Warlord Games being £29.50, we need to add what we spent on the cavalry this month and our overspend. We're at £127.75. So once again, it sounds like we've got a lot of money, but it really does get whittled away very, very quickly in these non-plastic armies. One thing that I should say is that Warlord Games do a bundle deal. If you get 3 Belgian units from them, then they do them as a bundle. You can get them a little bit cheaper. They're also available from third-party sellers, which the Eagle Miniatures aren't. So there's also the opportunity to save a little bit more money there. Maybe shave £2, £3, maybe £5 off per box. So, you know, it's not to be ignored. Have a look at their website if you're interested in this. See if that deal is good for you. They're only the marching ones, I believe. I prefer the shooting ones just because it gives you a bit of variation. But I believe it's just the marching ones that are in the bundle deal. If you give them a ring, I'm sure they'll be able to sort out some shooting ones instead. But yeah, as far as I'm aware, as is on the website, they're just the marching ones. But as it currently stands, we are a very long way through our budget. We are, what did I say we were on? We are on £127.75 for this month. So we have a lot of, we've basically got our army in place now. We've got 5 battalions of infantry, 3 regiments of cavalry. We've still only got 1 artillery piece representing a battery, and we've got some commanders. So what I am going to recommend now is one thing that is very missing are flags. Now, the Dutch Belgians had different flags depending on whether they were Dutch or Belgian. Luckily, we've got Belgian flags from Warlord Games, so we don't need to worry about flags for the Belgians. We do, however, need to worry about them for the Dutch. And we're going to head over to GMB Designs, and they sell 2 flags per pack. Now, unlike the British, who had 2 colours per unit, the Dutch Belgians only had 1. Now, we need 3 battalions worth here, because we've got 3 battalions of Dutch militia. It's a bit of a pain in the bum. It means that we're going to have to buy 2 packs, because you get 2 in a pack. Now, they're £3.90 each, so that's going to cost us £7.80. Now, while they do cavalry flags as well, or guidons, as they're known, the Perry Miniatures sets don't actually come with standard bearers, so there's no one to give them to. So we can save a bit of money by not needing to get those. And you can save a little bit more money by getting your flags from Eagle Miniatures. When you order your 2nd battalion pack, or your 3rd battalion pack, I should say, they do flags from Flags of War, which are, I mean, they're very nice. They're slightly cheaper than GMB as well. They're 40p each set cheaper. You get 2 per set again, but I don't think they're quite the quality of GMB, and that's no great throwing shade on them. I just think GMB are superb quality, and GMB are a local company to me, so I always like to give them a shout out as well. And they're not sponsors of the channel, but if they're if they're interested in sponsoring me, then get in touch. I am surprisingly easy to get hold of when it comes to giving me money, so that's why I recommend GMB. But as I say, you can save yourself 80p by getting them from Flags of War, and also it's going to combine the postage as well. So we really are getting down to the dregs of our budget now. We are really reaching the doldrums. We've got £12.70 remaining in our budget. So there are two ways that we can finish off our Dutch-Belgian army. There's the sensible way, and there's the way I'm going to recommend. So the sensible way is that we get a second cannon. We take the mounted infantry commanders that we got on month 1. We take them out of their units, so we've got 2 brigade commanders and then an overall divisional commander. We've still got our cavalry commanders. In fact, we've now got spare cavalry as well from our Dutch-Belgian cavalry units. So we've got 2 of those left over. And so you can add them to a base as an ADC or something like that if you wanted to. And but we've still only got 1 cannon. So the sensible option would be to go back to the Perrys, spend yourself £10 on another cannon. If you got the gun last time, get the firing one this time, or vice versa, or get yourself a howitzer or something a little bit different, or maybe even a horse artillery piece. Treat yourself. That's what you can get. If you don't get a horse artillery piece, then you can have a battery of 2 guns. If you do, then you can have an infantry battery of 1 model and a cavalry battery of 1 model. That's absolutely fine. Stick them on your round bases. Jobs are good. However, I am going to recommend that you Gatow, not MGTOW, but you Gatow, Wugtow, Wargamers going their own way. There you go. And that is, I'm going to recommend that, I mean, let's be honest. It's Waterloo. There are certain people who one associates Waterloo with. The Duke, of course, or Ney, or Napoleon. But one of them has to be the man himself, Silly Billy, Prince William, Duke of Orange. Or is he Prince of Orange? Something like that, I don't know. But there he is, William, Prince of Orange. Prince William of Orange. There you go, Silly Billy. Now, he can be your overall commander. He is DB1 from the Perry, so he's obviously the first one that they did. And, I mean, he's iconic, isn't he? Now, there are a lot of people who say he was an idiot. There are a lot of people who say he was Alexander the Great reborn. I don't really care either way. He's just a cool model to have, and he's some good fun as well. So you could even maybe spend the money that we've got left over getting a sharp model to maybe shoot at him. But, yes, no, now, as... He's a nice set. He comes with 2 other named generals as well, so he's definitely worth getting. Now, as a side note, we unfortunately don't have enough to grab DB2, which is a really nice set of ADCs and things like that would go nicely with him. But unfortunately, we do not have the money for that. He is £9.50, taking us to a grand monthly total, including the overspend from last month, of £146.80. Now, if you didn't get the infantry commanders last month, then obviously you won't have the overspend, so you can grab them this month, and they'll still be inside the budget, so that's absolutely fine. But that is pretty much it. I think there are some... I mean, again, you know, you can go over budget slightly, get yourself that second cannon as well as the Duke of Orange, or as Prince of Orange, I should say, sorry. Or you can get yourself that ADC pack as well. That's a really nice pack. But I'm going to leave it there. This is quite an expensive army. We spent £300 on this army, and we've ended up with 5 battalions of infantry, 3 units of cavalry, and the command, including the high command. Now, while it is a little bit expensive, what I like about it is it set it up nicely to expand the army. We don't really need that many more commanders. We're not going to need any more cavalry. So the next, if I was to do a 3rd month, the next 150 could pretty much all go on infantry, some more artillery, and then we could even start looking at things like ADCs or gun limbers or all of that sort of crazy out there stuff that you can get once your core army is in place. But I think this is a really solid core army, so it's going to get you... just breaking it down a little bit more, it's going to give you 3 battalions of Dutch infantry, 2 battalions of Belgian infantry, 2 regiments of Dutch Carabineers, 1 regiment of Belgian Carabineers, and then it's going to give you Silly Billy, a couple of other generals, and you've got spares from the cavalry as well. You could even combine a rando Belgian Carabineer to hang out with the Dutch and turn that first unit of Dutch Carabiniers into a large regiment of 10, 11, or maybe even 12 models if you get a bit handsy with the basing, shall we say, a bit stick a fence or a tree or something on the base, and that can take the part of a cavalryman. So there you go. That is it. I hope you've enjoyed the. This is probably the final one in this series. I can't think of any states that I've not done yet, with the possible exception of the Scandinavian states. Oh no! There is. Oh no! There is one that I haven't done yet. I shall have to come back and do that one a different time. Yes, but that is it for today. Thank you very much for watching. I hope, even if you're not necessarily interested in Dutch Belgians, I hope it's given you some ideas on how to collect those armies that don't have the easily accessible plastics. And if you've not heard of Eagle Miniatures before, then go and check out their website. They do some really nice stuff. It's not quite up to the Perrys, I don't think, but it's a nice alternative. So check him out. And also, he's a one-man show. Let's show him some love as well. But thank you very much for watching. Apologies about the lack of live stream last Wednesday, but I was helping out at work. Yeah, no good deed goes unpunished. But it should be back this Wednesday. So thank you very much. I hope to see you guys then, and I'll see you next time.